Well, good afternoon, listeners. Thank you so much for coming on to Lamentivo podcast. And wherever you're watching or listening to this, super grateful for you guys and always love your comments and just getting to hear from you about how different episodes have touched you or challenged you. And today I'm speaking with Prisha Mosley. And she is a woman who has a detransition journey. So, for those of you who don't know what detransitioning is, it is something that I think more people are coming out and talking about, but it's an individual who transitioned to another gender and then transitioned back to the original gender they were born to. So, it's a really harrowing experience. It's very raw. Um, and, the stories that I've come across, it's a very hard journey to go through. It's a brave one, but it's also just, there's so much emotional and physical scarring that goes on for the entire journey. And so I came across Prisha's story and I was like, I'd love to have her on to talk about it so my audience can get to have a picture of what life is like for a detransitioner, as well as just that whole experience from being a young teen all the way till now, in her 20s. So Prisha, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Hi, yeah, thank you for having me. It's important to me to share my story and try to inform people because a lot of people don't understand, the struggles of people who are detransitioning, which also often extend to people who are still in transition too, who start facing health complications but might not be expressing regret yet.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So can you tell me, for people who are listening, um kind of just to start out with your journey, because I think from when I was reading, it was about 15 when you started transitioning using pills, like, correct?
Or I was about 15 when I adopted a trans identity online. I had an eating
Okay.
disorder and a lot of other issues, emotional issues, and identity issues at that time. And I was prescribed a large dose of Depo-Provera by an pediatric endocrinologist. Um, Even though I was seeing a nutritionist for my eating disorder, because of the fact that I said that I was trans and I was a boy. I was affirmed in this belief. And then months later, at 17, I was put on a very high dose of testosterone, which ultimately led to disfigurement and the loss of a lot of my health.
Yeah. So tell me about growing up. You were talking about the eating disorder that you had already before you even started this transition. So what was going on in your life as a kid, and where was the eating disorder? When did that start?
There was turmoil in my life growing up, some issues in the family like alcoholism, and I also was going through my own personal traumas. I was sexually assaulted when I was 14, shortly before I would come to identify as a boy, and not want to be a girl. And I also had a pregnancy loss after this experience. So I was dealing with a lot of trauma and not exactly getting the help I needed the way I needed it. But when I adopted a trans identity, my doctors really hopped onto this idea with me. And it was no longer as if I was the delusional girl they were treating anymore. I was a man they were saying yes to and just affirming.
Which, in some ways, I would think was probably really refreshing at first, because you were saying earlier, like, you weren't being affirmed much in the pain you were experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was a bad thing to, be affirmed. It felt good. I felt validated. But the issue wasn't my body at all. My doctors shouldn't have agreed that being born female or the way my body was female and feminine was wrong. Even though agreeing with me at that moment made me feel hopeful that we could treat this issue, it wasn't really the issue in the first place. So that makes it medical fraud.
Yeah. So you had this eating disorder, which did this originate after the sexual assault that you experienced, or was it even before that that you had
Even
an
before, yeah.
okay. So um so you were struggling with that, struggling with your mental health, and when did you start questioning, okay, maybe it's my gender that's making me uh sad or feel imbalanced? Like when was the gender put in question for you?
I was actually introduced to this idea online. You know, I was an impressionable girl. I was online, already talking to other people with eating disorders and, you know, sharing tips about how to get away with not eating and etc. And on Tumblr, where I was doing this, was where I was introduced to the idea of trans. And it just appealed to me. You know, gender dysphoria, quote unquote, is just one way to describe so many different things like being insecure or having low self-esteem or dealing with trauma,
Hmm.
etc. All of these things can be labeled gender dysphoria, and if you've suffered through any of them, you'll feel like the label includes you.
Yeah. And you, like you said, particularly about the weight, like that would be, was it even, because I know it's interesting, because even with eating disorders, sometimes it's not even so much about the weight or how you look, it's about control. And then it's helpful that you feel like over something in your life, you're controlling something, and it's working out the way you want it to work out. Like for you, was the weight a huge concern for you? How much you weighed, or was it very much like you just wanted to control something that would
Yeah, it was
work?
about the control. My life was chaotic and a lot of things were unpredictable while they were happening. And yeah, I just needed control. And I suppose transition felt like that too, because I could become a different person, a stronger person, and have control over who I was becoming, or so I thought.
So, can I ask you? So you decided to transition to a man. Did you think that men in general were stronger, and like when you thought of a man, like you were like, okay, they have their lives together, they are can be in control of their situations better than a woman can?
Yeah, and I thought that sexual assault and certainly pregnancy and miscarriage, like had happened to me, didn't happen to men. You know, not accepting or understanding fully the idea that I wasn't actually turning into a man as in a male, and those things very much could still happen to me, but fully just being thrust into the fantasy that I was going to become this other person that wasn't even capable of being harmed in those ways. Not to mention the testosterone made me feel stronger. It made me more confident and reckless and irrational, and it made me feel stronger and it increased my muscle mass too. So, I mean, that
Yeah.
was affirming.
And when you went when you were 15 to the doctor about this, yeah, you mentioned, and when they started you on these different pills and the hormone pills, your parents went with you, right?
So, this actually started in a conversation with my nutritionist. I had not had my period in many years because I had gotten serious about not eating after the sexual assault, you know, and so I didn't have my period anymore. But my eating plan had caused me to start my period again. And that's when I said that I wanted to be a boy and I was trans. And then in that nutritionist office, when I was 16, the pediatric endocrinologist met with me and said that I could be a boy, and she started me on the Depo-Provera at a high dose to stop my periods really fast, and said that my parents couldn't stop it or do anything about it.
So your parents weren't even there when they first did this?
They thought they were taking me to see the nutritionist, not a pediatric endocrinologist.
Okay. So when you got there, are they like in the waiting room thinking you're talking to a nutritionist?
Yeah.
Okay. And you knew, did you know beforehand when you that before you went that you wouldn't be talking to a nutritionist, or when you literally got into the room with a nutritionist, you said, "Hey, this is what I'm feeling, thinking," and they just were able to get someone in there to talk with you
Yeah.
privately?
Yeah, it just everything was like more hands on deck and again with the affirmation as soon as I said that I was trans.
And what was your feeling at first when they said, they were like, absolutely, we're here to help you, whatever you need to do this, we are totally here for you. Was that Were you a little scared at all, or were you just like gung ho, like you were jumping on this as like a great opportunity?
I felt hopeful. I mean, for the first time in a very long time, after having been put on tons of psych meds, antidepressant after antidepressant, and continuing to be very depressed because my situation was still hard and so on, I felt hopeful. I felt like we had discovered which was wrong with me, my female body, which was harming my male brain, and that we were going to fix this problem. And I really was fully invested in getting better this way. But
Ye-
I held on to this hope for many years, but eventually I just kept not getting better and not turning into a man. Um, but I stayed hopeful for a long time.
So, how did you take the pills? Did your parents know what the pills were? Did you even explain it to them, or did you just go home and start doing it without saying anything?
It was actually a shot, and someone at the hospital started me on the shots and did it for me. But after a while, once my parents eventually became informed, and I took the testosterone vial and the needles home, and would inject it myself.
Okay. And you were 15, right, when you
Uh,
started this, so you weren't
I
even
started.
considered.
I was older. I was 17 when things got rolling with the shots and everything.
Okay. And what was the first thing you started noticing that you were like, I look different? I look a little like a man now.
Honestly, like the first thing that changed on the testosterone was my genitals, which is really disturbing to say, and it's an upsetting side effect. But like not to be vulgar, but like my clitoris is changed and different, and it was really painful while that was happening, and it's still painful now. It hasn't fully gone away. But it's like I've been disfigured down there, and that was the first thing to change. And I wasn't
Hmm.
even 18 yet or having sex when that happened to me. But that was the first thing.
Okay. And then was after that, did you notice any like your voice was deepening, or any hair growing, or anything like that?
Yeah, all of it came on pretty fast, one thing after another. My voice changed, and that's permanent. I get laser hair removal on my face, but that came pretty fast and strong, and I've had to do multiple sessions, and it still grows back. I gained a lot of weight within the first year or so, and come to find out that's because of issues with my pancreas and developing PCOS on the testosterone.
Hmm.
But all of these things just came on really quick and strong. But I mean, they made me feel more of that hope. They just reinforced the hope that I was changing and I was getting better and things were going to be okay.
Yeah. And you're becoming a new person, so you're almost putting aside. And I'm saying this, and please let me know if this is not the case, but I'm thinking too, you're thinking that, the person who's been hurt and has struggled so much, that's disappearing more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then when you had a mastectomy, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. When I turned 18, I had both of my breasts removed. Yeah, I really literally believed that I was having the surgery to turn my female chest into a male chest, but I was really having my breast tissue removed and rearranged and my nipples grafted and reattached and having huge scars put onto my chest. I didn't understand that though.
When you went in for the surgery, because they'll The only people even in my personal life that I know who have gone through that is because of cancer, right? Um and did you have like anyone, like any of the surgeons or anybody say anything to you like, "Hey, you're young. Do you want to maybe think about this?" Or you're just starting your life, and is there did you have anyone who was expressing any sort of care at all about the situation you were in?
No, I mean, I was told by the trans group that I was in, like for therapy, for group therapy or whatever, and support, that, this was life-saving care. This was practically an emergency that I have this surgery, especially so that I could pass, and not be known as a trans person and be safe in the world. This was during the first Trump presidency and everything. I believed all the lies, that trans and gay people and everyone in between were going to be like rounded up and killed and stuff. And the reason I believed these lies is because I was suicidal myself already. So when adults were telling me that other adults also wanted me to die, it was just easy to believe.
Yeah. So after the surgery, how did you feel? Did the surgery go as you thought it would? Were there a lot of complications?
I don't know. Um, I still didn't look at my body much after the surgery. Um, And it's still hard to now. I never have been one to do that much, and I wasn't given a chance to work through my trauma with that. And then now I have new trauma from this horrible surgery that I didn't need. But I was in a lot of pain after. But on the other hand, I was being taken care of by my mom, who at the time, like I said, was struggling with her own things. And I suppose I felt good for us to be together and for me to need her and her to need me. And I thought that was a good thing. But instead, she had to help take care of me after doctors hurt her daughter's body. And it's just like a tragic and devastating thing to me now.
Did did it feel weird to not have your breasts anymore?
I thought it was liberating. I thought I should be able to go outside without my shirt on and not be touched. And come to find out, there are places where women can do that. There's this place called Women's Land in Michigan that I went to, and you go like into the forest, and only females can be there. And there are times when women wear no shirts or like no clothes at all, and there are all different kinds of women. And I found it really liberating to be around them. Um, and I wish I had known about places like that
Hmm. What is
before
and
I had to cut off my chest to feel like I could be free.
huh? And when you say be free, you mean unsexualized in a way.
Yeah, yeah, there was nothing sexual about the gathering of women there. And there were all different types of women, some women who'd had mastectomies like me, and some who had just one breast removed, and all kinds of things like that. And
Hmm.
it was a really healthy experience that I wish I had been able to have with my whole entire body. But instead, the only experiences I've had while my breasts were on was unwanted touching and contact. So I
Yeah.
thought that I was being liberated from that.
And I'm sorry, you said what was this place called? And what was the purpose of this place? Why did people go there?
Women's Land, it's just a gathering of all females to do, I suppose, exactly that, be in a place where you're completely and utterly unsexualized. I mean, I was like
Hmm.
walking around in the woods in the dark at night, no shirt on, completely safe, like just walking around at night knowing only other women are around and nothing can go wrong.
Wow, I've never even heard of a place like that. It kind of sounds nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's actually kind of hard to reintegrate back into the world after you've been there for a week or 10 days and see men again.
Wow. Can I ask, do you know, because you said you went there, were a lot of the ladies there also? women who were transitioning, or were they women who had been sexually abused? Was it like, is it
Mostly
a
feminists.
therapeutic place in a way? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, mostly feminists. And yeah, a lot of like, have you ever heard of the term TERF, trans exclusive radical feminist, or trans exclusionary radical feminists, like feminists that don't include men who identify as women in their feminism,
Oh,
like true
wow.
feminists. Yeah,
No.
TERF, TERF. Yeah.
Wow. No, that just sounds like that so interesting, and I feel like that would be, especially, I mean, and this is just outside, I'm thinking of people who've been hurt sexually, like how restful a place it would be if you knew, like, I'm here and I'm going to be okay, and nobody, almost to almost engage with your body again too in some ways. um
Yeah, it felt really safe and secure, and yeah, a place where it was good to be a woman, and we celebrated the different things that women are good at and strong for, in different ways we're strong and don't have to be men to be strong.
hmm. Can I ask, you know, you were saying that, so you had this at 18, you had the mastectomy, and then you said several years are going by and you're really hoping that you're going to start feeling like a man, like inside. And when did it start hitting you that you're like, I just don't feel like that?
It was like 7 or 8 years later. I remember I had been messaging my doctors for a long time, telling them that I was having these side effects and I was in pain. And whenever I would do that, I remembered them saying, it's male puberty, growing pains hurt, you're just changing. And then eventually, like I said, after like 7 or 8 years, I was like, well, damn, puberty number one didn't last this long. And this is a lot worse. I'm in too much pain. I can't take it. So I secretly quit the testosterone. I was dating a trans identified female at the time and didn't tell any of the people I was around, and did it in secret. Quitting testosterone cold turkey was really difficult, and I kind of had a psychotic break. And I moved from Florida to Michigan, where I live now. And during this really tumultuous time, I met the man who is now my fiance. And this relationship, and his daughter, in fact, is what led to me detransitioning. But it started out with just not being able to handle the physical side effects anymore, the hot flashes, the literally being in menopause, the muscle aches, the everything, and still not transforming into a man. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and then the vulnerable state of my mind while cold turkey quitting really strong steroids.
What was the hardest side effect you think that you were hoping the doctors could help you with?
I mean, I was having different things all the time. The pain in my chest from the mastectomy never went away, like the nerve pain and stuff. And the pain in my shoulders and my back kept getting worse, and my posture kept getting worse because like the
Hmm.
mastectomy makes your shoulders like go in like that, like rounded, like a C. Um,
Hmm.
and my pelvic floor is really weak too, which also makes my shoulders like hunch. And so I'm like constantly fighting to like have my hips straight, which affects my whole upper body, but like the mastectomy messes it up. It's like everything affects everything else all the way down to the way I walk. But one of the worst things I would probably say is the vaginal atrophy. Like, um, it's incredibly dry. When it's a worse time or I haven't used something to hydrate down there, like estrogen or something, I can literally like feel the walls like rub against each other like that as I take steps, and it hurts.
Oh.
It's like sandpaper. It's horrible. And uh, they just, at the hospital and stuff, when I used to go when I was in Florida and stuff, they would just say, "Oh, that's normal for a trans man," and just give me morphine. And no one told me to stop taking these drugs or anything.
Yeah, it sounds like just giving you more drugs to help the symptoms of the drugs you're on already. um, can you, so, and then you said when, so you're in this relationship with a trans man. I'm sorry, trans woman. So you're,
Well, she's female, so she's a trans man, but she's like a
okay.
female.
So technically, that would be a gay relationship if you both were just biologically.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
exclusively attracted to females before taking testosterone, and only dated them. That also changed. Um, but yeah, a lot of lesbians end up taking testosterone.
So tell me what was that relationship encouraging to you? Was that something that was helpful with your mental health, or was it still really hard?
It was not healthy. It was really, looking back, it was really just a trauma bond. Both of us had hard lives and hated ourselves and wanted to help the other one get better while not being equipped to help either of us or ourselves. You know, we just were spiraling together while saying we loved each other and it would be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just a very sad, unhealthy relationship. I hope that she is doing better and making healthier choices than we both were back then. I'm certainly grateful that I'm in a different place now.
So when did you meet your fiance now? When did that happen?
That was like right after I moved to Michigan. Um, in 2022, I believe that would be. I just got on meetup apps like Bumble or whatever, trying to meet
Okay.
friends. And he has lived in this town his entire life. So he like showed me around, took me to the river and stuff, which was really nice. And we became pretty fast friends. And after he grew to trust me and know me enough, I got to meet his daughter, who was almost 3 at the time. And through watching her and babysitting her, despite the fact that I still had facial hair and I went by a masculine name and I wore masculine clothing and all of that, she started calling me mommy. And that's what led me to detransition.
Oh my goodness, really? How was it because she like how was that? Did she knew like she could still tell you were a girl or like she just
Yeah,
how did that
she just
happen?
knew. She just knew, like, I mean, there's a reason people try to indoctrinate kids so hard because kids know. They know, like, biologically. Like I said, now I've had a baby. He's 2 years old. I swear to you, since he was like a month old, he could tell who was a male and who was a female because babies instinctively want to be with females more because they're the safer sex for a baby to be around. You know, I mean,
Wow.
you can tell from earliest age, days old, if someone is a man or a woman. It's trans is anti-biology and anti-evolution. We evolved to be able to tell the sexes apart. And like I said, that's why I think they try to go after kids so hard because kids know the truth. And luckily, when she told me the truth, I was just thankfully in a place to be able to receive it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you when you first heard that, like, did you try to correct her at first and say no? Or was it just,
No, I just felt like she was right. I mean, a lot of times when other people would clock me as trans, and call me she or something like that, I felt threatened. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I know you're female, so now something bad and female related is going to happen to you. Like, I'm going to exploit that in a female way. But I mean, from a child, I didn't feel that way at all. It was what was natural and true to her. Um,
wow.
and I didn't feel threatened. Yeah.
So you said it, so after she started calling you mom, you decided, okay, I'm gonna detransition. Did you even know that that was a thing you could do, or was that just like you're like I'm gonna just start going backwards kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I didn't even know the word detransition when I detransitioned. I actually thought for a good little while that I was the first and only person to have this not work for them, and that it was just because I was bad or something or whatever. But I posted a video kind of like crying about it to the internet and quickly came to find out that I wasn't the only person who felt this way. And that's actually how I started testifying across the country. And now I've testified in like 23 or 24 different states where this has been banned.
Wow. So appearing in all of these different states and okay, and I think in 2023, is that when you started to actually actively detransition back?
It was like late 2022, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did that feel like? Like what were the first steps you took?
I mean, it definitely felt hopeless, the opposite of transition. I couldn't believe that I had been betrayed by my doctors in the trans community who I had trusted and put all of my faith in for years. I mean, I put my lives into my doctor's hands because they told me it was life-saving care and I was suicidal. And to it took a while to learn the nature of everything they had done to me, the way we're mammals and mammals can't change sex. And I had PCOS induced and going through medical testing to find all of the things that are wrong with me and running into more and more complications down the road and things that were related to the testosterone or the surgery. I mean, it was utterly heartbreaking and devastating. And to be honest, it still is. But I go to therapy about it and try to live a good life around the very large grief that remains there. Um, but yeah, it's difficult to find doctors. It's difficult to find care when you're detransitioning because no one really knows what to do, and they're often covering their colleagues' backs. Um, it's really isolating. I got a lot of hate from the trans community. I mean, even like death threats, and stuff like that for testifying and speaking out and saying that this hadn't gone right for me. Um, so it
Hmm.
was very hard at the beginning, but it continually gets better as I slowly regain my health and sanity.
Yeah. What, um, and you said too that you've had a child who's now almost two or is two.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, can I ask, how does that affect pregnancy? I mean, and I know this is your experience, so perhaps someone else who detransitions would have a different, story about how their pregnancy went. But for you, like, what was that like? I mean, because that's like the one thing the female body does that the male body can't, right? Have a baby. Like, that's the big thing. Um, it sticks out in your brain when you're thinking about differences. Like, how was that mentally? How was that physically for you?
It was amazing and terrifying at the same time. I honestly still can't believe that I have him and he's alive and he's okay and he's here. I'm really thankful that I've been able to have this experience. I was dealing with infertility for a long time after and while being on the testosterone, but also after coming off of it. And I actually got pregnant shortly after starting birth control. So the whole thing was really a shock to me. I
Wow.
had no idea that I could get pregnant, especially, on birth control. Yeah. But the pregnancy was really difficult. My doctors, put me in the high risk pregnancy category. I had a lot of throwing up. I had to take Zofran like multiple times a day, every day, for 9 months. I was actually throwing up while they operated on me to give me the C-section. And I had to have a C-section because my hips are too small for a baby to fit through because of taking the testosterone when I was a teenager, on top of having the eating disorder and not being allowed to heal from that, but being put on these drugs.
Well, also, I wonder too, I was going to ask you, like, vaginally, it probably would have hurt a ton because of how dry you were mentioning earlier too. I don't know if that would affect it at all either.
Yeah, it would probably be really bad tearing and stuff, but either way, it wasn't possible anyway, so I had to have a C-section.
So, do you think, you mentioned the hips, the pelvic placement, that's obviously a huge thing. And then how about when it came to like being able to breastfeed your baby and things like that?
Yeah, I wasn't able to, which was really devastating to me. Actually, I had these really serious complications because of the way the surgery was. My milk came in because I, unbeknownst to me, had pieces of breast tissue left inside my chest. But my nipples were grafted. They were taken off and cut up and reshaped and put back on again in the wrong place, with no connection to my milk ducts anymore. So the milk just stayed trapped inside of my chest. And it was honestly the worst thing that has ever happened to me.
I'm so sorry. Was that really painful?
Oh my God. I mean, it completely changed how I even think of or define pain. I've never felt anything like that in my life. It was truly agonizing, like having fish hooks inside of my chest that were, I mean, there were these rocks of hard lumps of, it was just horrible. And I got sick. I got mastitis. Uh, my lymph nodes got really infected. It was just so traumatic.
Mm. So, can I ask, it's so encouraging to me, like you said, like you're healing still. This whole, some could even say you're still transitioning. You're trying to become comfortable with who you were born as and your life story and seeing things um from a perspective of growth and healing and hope. Can I ask, if we're looking back at that 15-year-old who was really depressed and struggling and suicidal and was for quite a while, now where you're at, you're experiencing new types of struggles. But can I ask, do you feel more grounded? Do you feel more hopeful? What is what does it look like for you now, looking
Yeah,
back?
it's a lot different and better than when I was 15. I have learned to soothe my own emotions and myself and regulate them. And I practice mindfulness, which helps a lot with my reactions to what's happening around me and how I take those things personally. And therefore I'm able to make better choices and have healthier, stronger relationships, which makes my life better as a result. It's nothing like it was before. And I wish I had just been given time and a chance to learn these skills instead of being changed physically.
Yeah. And what is some pains you think you're just not going to be able to um so many people say with time things get better, which I don't really believe. I think with time you cope better with things, but I don't actually think it means things get better necessarily. Um I don't really think time heals. It just mutes the pain a little bit more each time, which just makes it more bearable to keep going. But I was going to ask you, for you, is there anything that no matter how much time passes, you don't think you're going to ever get back?
I mean, it'll never be like it was before. I'll never have the healthy, untouched, untainted body that I had before. I'll never have my breasts back. I'll never be able to breastfeed. I'll never get the time back with my first baby that was born when I was supposed to be bonding with him and I was grieving and in agony instead. I'll never look completely normal. I'll never be able to have a conversation with someone without them knowing that something's wrong, that I had some sort of struggle because of just the way I sound. I mean, it's irreversible. I'll never probably be able to stop getting blood tests. I'll never be able to stop taking hormones because my endocrine system is broken. I'll never be off of prescriptions and be able to stop seeing the doctor. I mean, everything is radically different and worse.
Mm. So in reality, detransitioning is even not, because there's not a way to transition completely back.
Yeah, it'll never be like before.
Yeah. Well, can I ask you to, just to end the interview, for those listening, because I know there are so many people who struggle, and I love what you said earlier about the gender dysphoria. I mean, we say that in connection to the transgender movement or individuals considering transitioning, but really gender dysphoria is, like you said, there's so many things that come with that. Like, it could be body, it could be insecurities about something, you like, some way you look, like it's a very expansive um label. If, just for people listening who maybe really are struggling with something like this, or are thinking, well, maybe if I take this plunge I'm going to feel better, because I've seen so many other people who are saying they're doing great. Um, what is something that you would encourage a listener who might be struggling or thinking about that?
Don't only listen to the voices of those who are in a position to make a profit off of a lifelong patient or invite someone to do the same things that they're doing to themselves because of the sunk cost fallacy. Protect yourself.
Hmm. Well, Prisha, it was such a gift to talk with you. I know this must be so hard to like say over and over again, but I just have to say, like, for me, you know, maybe this is gonna come across a little weird, but like I've always been afraid of being a mom. I had a lot of trauma as a kid, and I still am really afraid of being a mom. But I have, like, just hearing your story and thinking this woman is brave, like so brave that no matter what she's been through, worse things than me, because I haven't been physically scarred in any way, you are a mom and you are living that out and you are being strong for your child and wanting and pursuing growth. I just have to say that's an inspiration for me. So that is something that's gonna stick with me, is just saying like, wow, this is a woman who's been through so much suffering and yet she's a mom. She's doing it.
Thank you. Being a mom is the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, it's been good for me even in the small day to day. I have to, for example, keep my house clean because two sweet, cute little people live in it, so I can't go and be depressed and just sit in a bed and rot, you know what I mean? Or I have to be careful and think about what is on TV or in music around me, and that, impacts what's going in my head and stuff like that. It's been better for me in every way. I highly recommend having kids.
Thank you. I hope I'm praying for the courage.
Yeah, I believe in you. Good luck.
Thank you. All right, Prisha. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.